Hey Braves. So I have your new makeup project for quarter 1 right here in front of me. Now, what I mainly did to be as fair as possible to those students who completed the project, following the instructions and going out to their ecosystems and finding all of these things, is that I tried to basically just take the original project as a shell and then fill in new activities or similar activities for you to do to kind of, simulate what you would have gotten if you went out to your own ecosystem. So, some of these activities are the exact same. However, I want you guys to focus on the fact that these are all about the Amazon rainforest. So, I shouldn't see any lions, I shouldn't see any great white sharks or anything like that popping up. All of the examples that you find for this makeup project need to come from the Amazon rainforest because this is what this study is about. Now, some of you might be a little bit frustrated because this is going to require quite a bit of reading. There's no way around that. So the thing you have to understand is that going out to your own ecosystem and discovering these things on your own, you're able to draw your own inferences by using the data that you collect, and it's a much easier process. Now, in order for you to get the same information as though you're going into the ecosystem, well, you actually have to read about these things, and that will take more time, which is why I initially made your project a field investigation, because that was the easiest possible thing we could do while still practicing science. Now you've got to play the role of researcher, and playing the role of researcher means you've got to scan line after line after line of text to get the information you need. So I know this might be a little frustrating for some of you because it's going to seem like a lot of work, but this is why, again, I set the other project up the way I did, because it was the easiest possible project I could have come up with. Um, Anyways, moving on. So here is what your project looks like. I'm going to quickly go through it so that you understand what you're supposed to be doing and why. So let me pull up a screen share. Do. All right. So this is the quarter 1 makeup project. And you can see I changed the objectives a little bit for you. Going in there, basically you're going to analyze and collect information to determine the health of the Amazon rainforest and understand why it's a healthy ecosystem, but also understand some of the things about it that make it not as healthy as some others. So you're going to be doing a comparison at the end of this. Okay, moving forward. This is where the video is that you're watching right now. Awesome, right? Okay. First and foremost, you have some basic information to gather about the Amazon rainforest. This is going to require you to jump online and actually look this stuff up. Now, some of this information here is just important facts that I want you to know about it. But for instance, when we get to the one about geographical features, this is something that a lot of people messed up on the original project. Trees are biological, they're not geographical. Geographical speaks to like land features. So hills, mountains, volcanoes, oceans, things like that. That's what I'm looking for here. Now, obviously, there's the Amazon River, so you'd put down Amazon River. But then there are some other geographical features in the Amazon that I would like you to kind of note. Make sure you're giving me the actual names of the features and not just saying mountains and hills and valleys, because that doesn't help anyone, okay? And then human structures that are within the Amazon rainforest. So we all know there are countries existing on the outer edges of the Amazon. However, there are several cities within. There are mines within the Amazon. So I want you to kind of find a few of those and put those in there. Most people think the Amazon is just one single swath of forest, which it mainly is. However, there are lots of pockets of human civilization and other things in it. The Google Maps satellite view of the Amazon rainforest, you literally just have to jump on Google Earth or Google Maps, scroll down to South America, hit satellite view, and take a screenshot. That's what I'm asking for here. And then I want you to find 3 different locations in the Amazon rainforest, not all in the same spot. And this is to kind of give you an overview of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is humongous. So there's a lot of different locations for you to pick from. And I just want you to kind of get familiar with this ecosystem and understand it's not just the same thing spread out over hundreds of thousands of acres. Okay? All right. Make sure you're reading the material here. You will see some material slides pop up before each of your activities. This is to prep you for with the information that you need in order to be able to answer the following questions. So make sure you read this quickly. You can scan it. It should be information that you've already covered once, but it's good to have a refresher moving in. I also give you a quick rule of thumb for soils. Don't worry, you're not going to have to take a soil sample. So the first one, the first activity really for you to do that's similar to the last is going through soil in the Amazon. The Amazonian soil is completely different than the soil here in Kansas and the soil in healthy ecosystems in Kansas. So I want you to read this article here by Manga Bay and answer the questions below. They're fairly straightforward. Don't forget, there is no copy and paste. So if you copy and paste into this, I will not give you credit for that section. So make sure this is in your own words. Putting it in your own words requires you to process and synthesize the information. It strengthens your learning. If all you're doing is copying and pasting, you're not getting very much learning out of the opportunity, and that's the point of the project. The point of the project isn't to give me something to give you a grade, okay? A grade is a reflection of your learning. So if you're not getting learning out of this and you're just going through it as fast as you can, you're not going to get a good grade. So show me that you've learned the material by putting it in your own words, okay? So you got 4 questions here. What is the soil like in the Amazon rainforest? They go right out and tell you what the soil is like in the Amazon rainforest in this article. How is it able to support so much life with such poor soil? Interesting thing, Amazon being the healthiest ecosystem on the planet, it has some of the worst soil. There's something interesting about this that I want you to get out. So make sure that you're focusing in on that question. That's probably the more important question here. How are the nutrient cycles different from the temperate forest and Amazon rainforest? This is something I talked about in my biodiversity video, not specifically to the Amazon, but nutrient cycles in general. It was at the end of the biodiversity video. If you want to go back and take a look at it, you're welcome to do that. And then explain the phrase, life feeds on life. You will not find the answer to this question in the article, and you will not find it on the internet, okay? You'll find a bunch of varying answers on the internet. This is a critical thinking question, which means you won't find the information directly. I want you to think about it and then explain it based on what you just learned in the above 3 questions, okay? Then I just want you to go find a photo of what Amazonian soil looks like and what a photo of healthy soil looks like and put it there. The reason I'm having you do this is I want you, not me, this ain't for me, this is for you to see the difference between what is in the Amazon and what is actually healthy. So you can start to get an understanding of what healthy soil looks like in comparison to unhealthy. This better helps your mind put those things into separate categories. Because right now, you've never really had to consider soil health before, so it all kind of blends together, and it seems like this might be healthy, but this might not. This is to help kind of really give you 2 solid examples so you can start classifying these in your head. When you get older, soil health is going to be very important to you. Right now, it's not. But if you want to grow things in your own garden, if you want to be food secure in the future, you kind of need to know what healthy soil looks like. Even if it's just for landscaping and making your house pretty, okay? So there you go. Moving on this, we have water sources in the Amazon. I have 2 links here for you to use to help answer these questions. However, you can also try and find other resources to help you. Obviously, I went and picked out 2 resources, so chances are most of the answers are in these. And again, don't copy paste, because that's what a lot of you do. You copy paste the question into Google, and then the first thing that pops up, you copy and paste that into the answer. And generally, it's the wrong answer. So, read and synthesize that information for me. Okay, these questions are just about water sources in the Amazon. Water and rainforest. We call it a rainforest for a reason. So believe it or not, the Amazon makes its own rain, like the plants do. So you're going to read a little bit about that and kind of process that information and put that here. Sunlight. The Amazon is on the equator. So if you go to the Amazon rainforest, you go south until you're on the equator. And the equator is where we get the most intense sunlight. And at the equator, they don't have the 4 seasons. They have 2 seasons, which is a slightly longer day and a slightly shorter day. Some of them are a little bit of a wet season and a little bit of a dry season. But basically, the weather doesn't change much on the equator. So you basically get the same amount of sun all year round. This is important, and it greatly impacts how the Amazon rainforest functions versus our ecosystem here in Kansas. So the link here will kind of give you some of that information, and I want you to think about what the plants and animals have to go through, because having sunlight the same all year round impacts how they interact with their ecosystem. If you notice, now that it's snowed, all the trees are dropping their leaves. But the trees in the Amazon, they don't do that. So, there's some adaptations there that plants have to make here in Kansas that they don't in the Amazon. So I want you to kind of get into those. It's kind of the point here. Air quality. When we're talking about air quality, it's hard to research air quality on the internet, especially for the Amazon, because there's a lot of pollution and a lot of burning of forests and stuff like that. And that's what mainly all of the articles are written about right now, because so much information or so much effort is being put into trying to save the Amazon rainforest for a lot of really good reasons. So it's hard to find the right material. I am not asking about pollution sources for the air in the Amazon. What I'm mainly looking for is how the humidity in the Amazon impacts the organisms there. Humidity has a very big impact on the health of plants and animals. So I want you to kind of look into that. That's what the point of this is. And then temperature. So if you notice, this has all been your abiotic factors. You're still looking up the abiotic factors like you would have for your ecosystem, just for the Amazon rainforest. Temperature is important as well. The temperature doesn't vary much in the Amazon, and that means the plants and animals have adapted to that. I want you to kind of look into that and then compare it to Kansas. So obviously we're going into winter, and the Amazon doesn't have winter. So you're looking at the comparison between the plants there and how they've adapted to that environment, and the plants here and how they've adapted to this environment. Notice these questions can't be answered in one sentence. These questions, a lot of them should be answered in 2, 3, 5, 10 sentences, depending on how complicated they are. So don't give me short answers. Remember, you're making up a project that you didn't do. So as a result, you need to put extra effort into this. Moving on. Okay, so that solidifies the abiotic factors. Whatever you get on this section is what I will put in for the abiotic factors in the gradebook. So the field investigation, abiotic factors, this is the makeup section for that. Ecosystem roles. Again, make sure you guys read this. Going through your projects, one of the biggest issues that I saw, one of the biggest mistakes, was getting primary consumers mixed up with secondary consumers. Primary consumers only consume plant material. They do not eat other moving things. If it moves and you eat it, then you're a secondary consumer. So if you eat insects, you're a secondary consumer. If you eat mice, you're a secondary consumer. If you eat fish, you're a secondary consumer. If you eat eggs, you're a secondary consumer. The only thing that is a primary consumer is something that eats plants. Only, like totally vegan, like not even eating dairy products. Vegan animals only, herbivorous animals only. That is a primary consumer. Okay. The other thing to mention, decomposers are not just mushrooms. Yes, fungi is one of the main decomposers, but there are other things that are decomposers that aren't just mushrooms. So keep that in mind when you're looking for them. Basically, you're going to come through here and fill this section out as though you went into the Amazon rainforest and found these things. So you're going to have to find 3 decomposers. You need to give me the species name. Don't say mushroom. Don't say cricket. Don't say roly-poly. I need the species name, okay? And then you have to look things up and tell me what they break down. Certain mushrooms only grow on certain trees. And if you look up that mushroom, chances are the information of what it grows on is going to be there. So if it's growing on a particular type of tree, well, guess what? That's what it breaks down. So make sure you're answering this question and addressing this. I didn't take off as many points in this section for the field investigation, the one where you actually went outside into your ecosystem, because that might not have been as obvious. But now that you're looking the information up on the internet, well, you should be able to find it. So make sure you get that in there and give me a photo of the organism you're talking about. You'll see that, again, you need to find 3 examples of that. And then I have a quick decomposer question for you to answer here. And this ties back to the soil questions up here, okay? And specifically the nutrient cycles and the difference between a temperate forest and an Amazon rainforest. So when you are answering this question here, think back to that material. It will help you answer the question. Okay, then you're looking up producers. Again, make sure you are giving me the species name. Don't say flower, don't say tree. Tell me what tree it is, okay? And then tell me what organism this supports or what it feeds. So a fig tree feeds a lot of different types of primates and monkeys that run around on the top of the canopy of the rainforest. So if you put a fig tree here, you need to explain that it supports the monkeys and other creatures that feed off of that plant. So you need to find 4 producers, which is less than I had for the other assignment. You need to find 4 primary consumers. That should be very easy. Remember, primary consumers only eat plants. They eat nothing else but plant material. Secondary consumers, you got to find 4 as well. And then you only need to find 1 top predator in the Amazon rainforest, okay? And I'm telling you right now, lions don't exist in the Amazon rainforest, okay? So make sure it's coming from the Amazon. All right, that will cover your grade for the ecosystem roles field investigation. Then we get into ecological relationships. And again, make sure you read this information. One of the main issues I had with this assignment was people were getting parasitism and predation mixed up. And they were also getting commensalism and parasitism mixed up, okay? So make sure you get these squared away in your head. Mutualism, both things are getting something out of the relationship. Commensalism, one thing benefits, but the other thing is not affected at all. It doesn't benefit and it's not hurt. It basically doesn't even know the relationship's occurring. Again, I keep giving the example of a bird nest in a tree. The tree has no idea the bird nest is there. It's not impacted anyway, but the bird is benefiting. And then parasitism, one thing benefits, but the other thing is negatively affected. If you are eating a body part like a leaf or the roots or an arm, well, then that's predation. It's not parasitism. Parasitism is where you keep your host alive as long as you can, as you suck the life out of it, or suck the juice out of it, or suck the sugar out of it, or suck the blood out of it. You're actively taking resources away from the thing that you're on or attached to. Parasites attach themselves to the organisms they're feeding on. They don't eat the organisms that they're feeding on. They're taking nutrients and things away from them. So it's a very specific difference between the two. If you are eating it, then you are preying upon it, and that is predation. But if you're taking nutrients away without actually eating body parts, then it's parasitism. So keep that in mind. Okay, this is very similar to the last thing for ecological roles. You're going to go and find these relationships in the Amazon rainforest. I have 4 of them for you to find for predation. I have 2 for competition, and then 2 for each of the symbiotic relationships. That's mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. You will find a lot of parasites in the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest is loaded with parasites. They're everywhere. Animals have them inside of them. The people who live in the Amazon are full of parasites. because they all drink the water there, and most of the parasites lay their eggs in the water. So when you drink it, then you get the thing growing inside of you. This is why you boil your water, or you get your water from treated water facilities, so you don't get weird diseases and parasites, because it's not good for you. Okay. All right. So anyways, that's what you're doing here. Fairly straightforward, nothing crazy. The final activity for you to do. Oh, by the way, this covers your ecological relationships field investigation. So this is the makeup part for that. Finally, we get into the biodiversity comparison. So in the other one, you had to go take a survey and count all the different things that were there. Well, thankfully, this information is done for you online. If you go down, you will see I have a quick article for you to read that has to do with these two questions here. That has to do with how we've impacted biodiversity in the Amazon. But the main thing that you're doing here is you are jumping on your web browser onto Google, and you are looking up the total number of insect species in the Amazon and the total number of insect species in Kansas. And you're doing that for all of these different classes of living organisms, okay? So all the way down to fungi. And here's how easy this is. So this might seem like a lot, but this is actually one of the faster things that you'll be doing for this makeup project. I'm going to add a window here, and I'm going to show you this. Number of plant species, not playing, plant. Man, there we go. Amazon rainforest. And check this out. Boom, there's a number. And that's coming from the World Wildlife Fund. So, which is a fairly reputable source for this information. So 80,000 species potentially of plants in the Amazon rainforest. And it even goes into more detail of what that means. So then you would come over to your makeup thing, and for your plant species, you would put 80,000 species. Okay, and then you'll do the same thing for Kansas. And when you get done adding all of this in, there's a few questions for you to answer about the biodiversity, and it's going to ask you to compare the two and what you think that means. You're going to find that there's a very, 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 very big difference. And I want you to think about how important that is. If you can't remember why biodiversity is important, go watch my biodiversity video on my YouTube channel. It's posted on my website. It's posted on Google Classroom. You can get to it from there. I go into deep detail of why biodiversity is important and why more biodiversity is better. So answer those questions. There's that article I had. And then the final thing, so this will cover your biodiversity field investigation grade when you finish this and complete it. And then for the final ecological assessment field investigation, which is what everybody was supposed to be doing this week, this is these 4 slides here. Now, this looks almost identical to the one that was with the original project. However, I have changed the questions to match your new project here, your makeup project. I'm asking you to explain if the Amazon has enough abiotic resources to maintain its current populations. You should have enough information at this point to be able to explain that. Can the Amazon withstand environmental change? This is something you can look up if you want. There's a lot of information out there about what climate change will do to the Amazon in the future. So you might just want to type in climate change impact Amazon rainforest and see what comes up. It should give you some helpful, useful information to answer this question. Why is the Amazon rainforest able to continue functioning when there are so many diseases that affect living things? This ties back into biodiversity. I did talk about this in the biodiversity assignment video. But the Amazon rainforest is full of different fungal, bacterial, and parasitic diseases that impact every living thing there. But there's a reason why the Amazon continues to function. So you need to explain why that is. And if you don't remember why or how to answer this question, why it would be, go watch the first half of my biodiversity video. I cover this subject specifically. And then the final 3 questions are all on one slide. And if I put 3 questions on there, that probably means you can have slightly shorter answers, just no less than 2 sentences. You need at least 2 sentences for each of these. But first question, what is Amazon's greatest strength? That should be fairly obvious. So this is the greatest strength because, and then explain why it's the greatest strength. Don't just say biodiversity and then leave it at that. No, explain why. That's how you get to that 2 sentences. What is its greatest weakness? The greatest weakness of the Amazon rainforest is blank. And that is its greatest weakness because, or this is how, whatever, okay? What is the biggest threat to the Amazon, and will the Amazon be around in 500 years? This is the question at the end that will require the most explanation, because you kind of have to use more information than these 2 up here. These 2 are kind of straightforward. They kind of lead into this question. So explain yourself in detail for these 4 slides. This makes up the ecosystem diagnostic portion of the original project. So when you complete all 4 pieces of this, each piece will replace the grade that you didn't get for the original project. Get this turned in as soon as possible. I know this is a lot of stuff for you to work through. So the last message here for you on this project. This is a makeup project. November 13th is technically the deadline. However, I want you to stay current and up to date on your Q2 work. So anything I assign next week takes priority over this makeup project. Now, this is obviously a big chunk of your grade. So I will probably extend the deadline past November 13th so you can slowly work on this project and get it in. The thing is I'm going to need time to also go back and grade all of these, because if you notice, nothing here grades itself. I will be reading through all of your answers and giving you feedback so you understand why I grade your project the way I'm grading it. That's going to take a tremendous amount of time. So the earlier you get this in, the better. But do not do this project at the expense of your Q2 work. Q2 work is more important than this makeup project for the moment. So if you need to work on this slowly, then you have until basically December 1st to get this in. I would prefer it if you got it in before November 13th. But if you need extra time so that you can stay current on your other stuff, then work on this a little bit each week. My recommendation at this point is maybe finish 1 section of this project each week. That should be a fairly good pace for you without overwhelming you, and then get it turned in when you can. December 1st, I will not accept any of these projects being turned in at that point. December 1st is the cutoff, and that's simply because I need time to grade it before your final semester grades come out. And you guys have seen how long it takes me to grade a lot of the stuff that you've turned in. So this is going to be a lot for me to go through. I just keep pointing that out because a lot of you think I can grade these things immediately. It will take a while, okay? So December 1st is a cutoff for this makeup project. All your other work, November 13th is the cutoff for Q1. This makeup project is the only thing that I'm extending that deadline to December 1st, okay? I know I repeated myself like 5 times, but I want to be crystal clear of what I mean by the due dates and all of that, okay? All right. I hope this is a good project for you in terms of a good makeup. Hopefully it's not too overwhelming. I cut it down as much as I could while still trying to keep it as close to the original as possible to be fair to those students who, again, did the work like they were supposed to. And that's not a slight against you by any means. I'm just trying to be, fair here. So anyways, enjoy the project. If you need help, reach out. I won't straight up give you answers, but I will try to lead you to the answers. All right.